Hey, I'm training to be a championship cuber and documenting the whole process. If you're new here, basically every month I make a video like this outlining my specific training plan for how I'm going to get better at cubing. I log all of it in a spreadsheet software or something like that, and then I review the training that I did over the last month or so and go over my thoughts on the training, my competitions, and how I'm going to improve my work over the next month or two. Here's the plan for today, just so that you know. I'm going to first recap the last couple months. I went to the Western US Championship and kind of some thoughts on sustainable training. I'm going to have a yap in the middle, just kind of me talking about this concept I call the training accordion. And then I'm going to talk about what my next couple months look like, including going to the North American Championships, my training plan, and a bunch of new cubes that I got. So if you want to skip around, you can do that. If you want to just listen to the whole thing, you can do that too. My long-term goal is to make the final round at a major championship and get into the top 100 average for each of 5x5 through 7x7. So for all the big cubes by the end of 2029. I define major as one of these competitions. So North American Champs, US Nats, Euros, or Worlds. The Continental Championships on the other continents don't typically have enough world-class competition for me to consider it a major, although that may change in the future. My next competitions include the North American Championship, and that's basically it for like the next 2.5 months, but I will be there. Should be a lot of fun. I'm sponsored by thecubicle.com. If you want to support me on this journey and in the content that I make, use code TRUE at checkout for 5% off your entire order. All right, let's jump into it. What have I been working on these last couple of months? Well, my main focus was 6x6. So I made a video about this like a month and a half, 2 months ago now almost, where I was like, this is going to be grind season. Like, it's time to just work on 6x6, do lots of solves, and do lots of solves. I did. I trained about 80 hours of 6x6 in the last 2 months, and my global was sub 2. Like, my average of 200 was 158. So I improved a ton, and it was literally just brute forcing solves. I didn't have a ton of major things that I knew were bad in my solutions. There are certainly things I could improve, but it was just lots of solving. By the end of the last 2-month period, like my average of 200 was trending down. It was like, it started at like 205 and then 202 and then 2. And then I eventually popped the 2-minute barrier, went up above 2 minutes for a bit, then back down below. But then after like a week of globaling like 158, I started to have a lot of times where I would just randomly get like a 210 or randomly get a 220. And that pulled my average of 100 up to like 204, 205. But I would still, when I was really locked in, get mean of threes that were like 150, 152, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of like low 140 singles when I was super locked in. But as I kept training, even though I was globaling pretty well, I had a lot of times where I would just randomly get a bad solve. In retrospect, I would chalk that up to basically me starting to autopilot on a lot of my solves instead of consciously looking ahead. And what that did is it created a lot of fast times where autopilot worked and I could turn quickly, not pause, and just make it all the way to the end. And a lot of slow times where the autopilot didn't look ahead correctly. It didn't find all the edges and centerpieces that I needed. So I had a lot of pauses, never developed the fluid rhythm, and it just kind of got a bad time due to poor look ahead. The reason I did all this grinding is because I wanted to qualify for 6x6 at the North American Championship. The goal was to get a sub 2 mean, and the deadline was sometime in the middle of May. And I had a round the weekend before the deadline, and I missed it. Like I said, going into this competition, I was globaling well below 2 minutes, but I blew it. There was one round of 6x6, and you can see I got a 202 mean. And it's exactly like my bad times at home where I would get a couple of random, like I got a 205, 207, and I got a 152 in the middle. But this was really disappointing for me. This was 6 out of 6 parodies as well, which is not fun, but it is what it is. Reflecting on that competition day, what did I do poorly? And why did I underperform so hard? Because like in warm-up, I was averaging like 151, and then I competed really poorly. I think I did a few things wrong. The first thing is I put a lot of pressure on myself in warm-up. So all that mattered that day was how I performed in the round. But when I started warming up for 6x6 that morning, I wasn't solving super well. And so I pushed myself really hard over like 2 hours of warm-up until I was solving super well. I did that for so much solving over the course of the morning, in bursts of like 20 minutes of 6x6 solving and then going off to compete in another event or judge. What happened is by the end of all that warm up, I kind of was tired out and getting really nervous. So when I was averaging like 204 in warm up, I was stressing myself out like, you're going to miss the deadline. You're going to miss the cutoff time for NAC. So going into the round, I was really, really shaky because I put so much pressure on myself. Second thing, this was out of my control. I got assigned to scramble the group before I competed, which made it really hard to get into competing mode. And I asked if I could like switch assignments, but it was a really small comp. There was no one else fast enough to like scramble adequately. So I got stuck doing it. I don't resent that because there's a skill issue here, which is me getting into competition mindset quickly. But when I found out that I'd be stuck scrambling before the round, I kind of resigned myself to not getting into competition mode. So I went into the round not focused at all. I was kind of helter-skelter. I was thinking about the deadline for qualification. I was thinking about, I really need to perform well and my warm-ups aren't going super well. I was thinking about this guy who I met at the competition who I was giving 6x6 advice to. I was thinking about how my cube felt funny. It was just not great. When I got into the round, my turning was really, really, really shaky. So like my first two centers were really, really rough. There was very little fluidity in my turning. It was really choppy. My cube also, and this is the fourth thing, started feeling funny. I hadn't adjusted the setup for over 2 months, and I had done like over 1,000 6x6 solves. So my cube really needed more lube and some adjustment. Like it was squeaking. It was kind of like the layers were uneven in how fast and sandy they were. So after the first solve, between me not establishing fluidity, not being super focused, and not liking my cube, I switched which 6x6 I was using. I had two with me. I had one that was the UV coated and one that was non-UV coated. And the UV coated one, up until this point, is what I'd used for all my practice. And it was much faster, much more stable, but it had kind of gotten sandy. The other one was a lot more flexible, a lot more easy to be fluid on. So I swapped, and the second solve went really well. The contrast was great. Like, it helped me be more fluid, even though I was still nervous. On the last solve, what went wrong is I panicked during edge pairing. So going through my first two centers and yaw edges, I was really choppy. And I knew I needed a good time to finish out the mean. And I also knew that I had a bad start. So what that meant is I had a fine average centers for me. Going into edge pairing, I knew things needed to go well. So instead of staying calm and relaxed, I went into I tried too hard. Like I was constantly looking at the back of the cube and the corners of the cube and trying to find all these cool solutions. It just didn't work. Obviously, I got a 208, 207.9. Like, I thought too hard about it. So what would I change next time I have something like this happen? One, I would try much harder to do well in just the competition round, not in warm-up. I did this well at Westerns the next weekend, which I'll talk about on the next slide. But putting pressure on myself to have good averages in my warm-up solves depleted my mental resources a lot and put undue stress on myself. The second thing is, even if I'm going to be scrambling right before the round, I can still put my headphones in, listen to calming music or hype up music, whatever the thing is that I need, right? And just super lock in on that. The last thing that I would do differently is never ever switch cubes middle of the round. Obviously I should have adjusted my setup ahead of time. I went home that day, relubed the cube, and it got way better. But I should have just stuck to my guns. Even though it dropped my times after the first solve, I had put so many hours in on that same puzzle, I should have just stuck with it and let my instincts carry me through. So I didn't perform. It's my fault for having a bad mentality that day and not having the discipline to be in competition mode. So unfortunately, I will not be competing in 6x6 at NAC. The next weekend, end of May, I went to the Western Championship, and this was by far my favorite competition I've ever been to. This is me and Kevin Hayes. Kevin is kind of goated, and I did a lot of judging, and I helped with the stream and all that. This was an amazing, amazing competition. My results were pretty good. I practiced no 3x3 going into this competition, so my averages were all absolute trash. Same with 4x4, just like zero touch on either of those. I practiced the most 6x6, but the week leading up to Westerns, I kind of took it easy. Like, I came off of that really disappointing competition where all I wanted was to qualify for NAC and I didn't. And so I just kind of like, did like 10 6x6 solves a day and just chilled. Day one, this 2-minute 6x6 mean, it's still a PR, but I wasn't happy because I knew what I wanted was sub 2 and I didn't get it. I missed it by 0.3 and I didn't feel good about any of these solves. They were all really slow. 7x7 was fine. I really didn't practice 7x7 much at all. So getting a 3-minute flat mean, I'm happy with that. I'll crack 3 minutes soon enough here. The two rounds I want to focus on the most are the 5x5 round 1 and the 6x6 final. I'll start with 5x5 round 1 because it came first and this was bad. You can see I got 17th, which misses finals by 1 place. You can also see from my average that things absolutely fell apart at the end. 56, 102, 101, and then 108, 113. Let me tell you about the 5x5 average. What happened was first solve was really good. Like, I was flowing great, looking ahead well. Second and third solves, same thing, just not to the same degree. So 56, 102, 101, I'm feeling great. Like I'm super focused. I'm looking ahead while I'm turning well. I don't have too many nerves. And then I sit down for solve 4. And I sit down for solve 4, and the judge doesn't call inspection times. He calls 12 seconds. Like, he doesn't call the 8. He called 12. And I was like, oh goodness. And I set the cube down and like I said, you need to call 8 seconds. And then I picked up the cube. And then I was like, wait, he didn't say it. So I put the cube down after having started the timer, and I called the delegates over. And like, I had it on video that I told the judge, hey, this went wrong. But like, out of reflexes, I started the timer. So there was a little bit of like back and forth between me and the delegates of like, this is what happened. Am I allowed an extra? But it threw me so much. I was like, I completely got taken out of my focus zone. This is a skill issue on my part for not having a more firm mentality. But they gave me an extra. But it was so like, I got really taken out of my flow on that. So the next solve, I got a 108. Like, there was nothing wrong with the judge the next solve. I was in a fine seat, but I just like, my turning wasn't flowing. My look ahead wasn't flowing anymore. I was really shaken. That's a skill issue on my part for not being able to like have an external thing happen and then quickly recenter myself and calmly go into the next solve. There's a 5th solve left, and I know that I could get like low 1, sub 1, which is PR for me, would have for sure made it into the final. On the last solve, the seat that I got seated in was on the stage, and it was right in front of the big announcement speaker. So not only am I psyching myself out and I'm out of focus, a super loud announcement comes blaring in right behind me as I start my inspection, and it like shakes the chair and the table that I'm in, which again, external distractions are a skill issue that I need to learn to deal with, but I didn't deal with it well. Like, the whole solve, I was thinking about focusing, but I wasn't focusing. I was telling myself, you have to focus on this solve, but I wasn't focused on the solve. I was focused on focusing on the solve. Like, I was so rattled that I just didn't solve well. So missed 5x5 finals by 1 spot. I had 2 takeaways from that round. One is I get really mentally tired by the end of a 5x5 average. If you look at the other averages on my profile, this is the case there as well. The last solve or 2 of a 5x5 average for me is typically much worse than the start. 6x6 and 7x7 are long enough that you can approach the event more like a marathon. You don't have to turn all out and engage every last brain cell for the whole solve because it's so long. If I do that, I kind of tire myself out too quickly. But 5x5 solves are just short enough that I can fully engage myself for the whole thing. But by the end of the 6 solve average, I was just tired. So I need to have more practice sessions where my goal is eliciting maximum mental effort as I would in a competition average. Because at home averages, I don't turn on every brain cell because like I don't have adrenaline, I don't have pressure, I don't have all these external things making me. I try as hard as I can for at home, but I have videos going in the background, or my wife's in the kitchen, or whatever. So I need to train to prepare my brain for a really long, intense average. The other takeaway is I need a little, like, basically meditation ritual or something to recenter when things go weird in the middle of the average. I entered the round focused. I should have been able to pull myself back into the focus zone, and I didn't. So that was a learning experience of, oh, not that. Man, I didn't do too well. 6 and 7 finals. Okay, so 7 final was the first night, and I did quite well in the 7 final, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I really enjoyed, getting the announced over the loudspeaker and walking out to a little bit of applause. And I enjoy finals a lot, where the whole room is quiet and that it's just kind of like you in the cube and other good people solving at the same time as you. It's coming for several hours, so you can really lock in, put your headphones in, get your mind right. So 7 finals was okay, but it made me really hyped for 6x6 final because I performed very well for my global average at the time in 7 final. And I was like, in 6 final, I think I can really bring it. The day of 6x6 finals, I basically only had 2 rounds. I had a 3x3 round and then the 6x6 final at night, which meant I didn't tire myself out at all that day. Basically, the whole day was just like anticipating the 6 final. Like, I went out to lunch for like an hour, listened to a podcast. I did like 15 minutes of 6 in the morning, like 45 minutes in the afternoon to like warm up, but that was it. I did not over practice myself. I just got myself in the right headspace. I walked around, drank an energy drink the right amount of time before the final, as long as I know it takes for caffeine to set in, but not so long as it wears off and gives me the shakes. I was super, super locked in. So by the time I sat down for the final, I was in a really good headspace. Still getting used to the adrenaline for the first solve. Like, I do get adrenaline almost every time I compete. So the first solve was shaky. But the second solve, just all the pieces came together. Adrenaline wasn't too strong. I was really, really focused. I was turning well. I had all the mental energy I needed. Fantastic time for me. My PB at the time was 139. So that's a very good single for me. And then the last solve, I closed it out nicely as well. So I was very happy with the 152 mean. My PB mean up to that point was like a 149. So this was a very solid time for me, especially considering it had a 201 in it. So huge PR, smashed the sub 2 barrier, and it felt really, really good. So I'm very happy with my results because I got a 6x6 result that overcame this really unfortunate result from the week before and was very good when compared to my global. So results at Westerns were great. The comp itself was epic. Like I said, being in finals was really, really, really fun. I like competing. I especially like competing when there's a little more pressure and a little more pomp and circumstance. It made me really hyped for NAC. The comp was like a mini major. It had a stage, it had announcements. Oh, excuse me. It was in this big open conference center room. Kevin Hayes, who I sat with for most of the competition, he was like, yeah, this is the first regional I've been to that really feels like a little major, but not as large. Sitting next to Kevin Hayes for all my warm-up and most of the competition was really motivating. Kevin just I sat at the back of the room and I knew Kevin was coming, but I didn't plan on sitting with him or anything. And the first day I was sitting there with my wife, warming up, and Kevin just walked in and just as he was walking up, he just waltzed up to my table and just started talking to me and just sat down, and we just kind of went, which was really fun. It was very gratifying for me because the big reason I started the YouTube channel is so that at competitions, I would have friends. I like talking to people at competitions, but it is easier to make a relationship with a direct conversation than it is at a competition, in my opinion. At a competition, I kind of just want to be there for the cube. And I did that with Kevin. I did a podcast with him. I'm guessing you've seen some of my other videos. So having him just walk in and sit down was this is so cool. And then seeing him solve for hours on end was super motivating. And having him watch me solve and be like, you idiot, you did outer bar before inner bar on that 6x6 solve. Yeah, I'm stupid, Kevin. I know, I'm bad. Or watching him do edge pairing and watching him do certain finger tricks. It made things feel really, really human and achievable. that it is one thing to watch people be his speed over the internet. And we have fast big cubers here in SoCal, like Brendan Dunnigan, Kate Graham, and obviously Max Park. But it is another thing to sit with Kevin for like 3 days straight and have him like constantly chatting with you as we both solve and realizing like, oh, this is just like another guy who's very good at his craft, but I can catch him. I think I can get to that level in like 3 years, but I think I can do it. Came away with a few action steps as well. So like it was so fun to solve with Kevin for a few days. The competition also confirmed for me I have no interest whatsoever in getting good at short events. This includes 3x3, this includes clock, pyraminx, cube, square one. Anything that is shorter than megaminx or 5x5 just like does not sound interesting. There are 2 big reasons for this. Well, 3, but 2 that I took away from this competition. First, there are some ridiculously cracked competitors at the short events. Like at this competition, I did a lot of judging. And there were some people I watched, or I just watched them compete, and I was just like, they just like are so good. A few names that I remember that were like fairly new to me at this competition. Micah Yo, very good one-handed solver, just like crisp, supernatural, fast turning. Nancy Liu, she won 2x2. She's been in the top 100 for 3x3. I think female world records in 3x3 or 2x2. Like her turning is so precise and so solid. It is ridiculous. Like it works really well on 2x2, but on 3x3, most NA competitors have kind of sloppy turning. Hers is like, it's beautiful. Like nobody except for Nam has turning that looks as like mechanical and smooth as hers that I've seen. Sebastian Stone, this kid, like he had his little hoodie on for the whole competition and he just like kept his hands in his pockets and he'd like come up to the stage and just be like, I'm ready. Like he'd sit down and like before his butt was even in the seat, he'd be like, all right, I'm ready. And then he'd pick up the cube and solve. But like, he's just cracked at everything. Like, you can tell that he just like lives and breathes cube and he's so good at it. I'm guessing that as he grows up, if he can establish a little bit more of a competitor's mindset, he'll be a force to be reckoned with. But he just like has the X factor. Hrishikesh, I judged him in pyraminx round 1. I didn't know who he was or how good he was. He's just outside the top 100 in Pyra, I believe. And it was just like, wow, your turning and your like competitive mindset is really, really dang good. And I mentioned this to him after round 1. I then found out he watches my videos. If you're watching, hi, you're awesome. And then he went on to win the competition. It was his second Western Championship. Like these people who I noticed being good, they all had huge accomplishments at the end of the competition. Like you can see this person is really good, and it was cool. They all panned out. Like Micah, second in OH, Nancy won 2x2, Sebastian won clock, Hrishikesh won Pyra, and then Zarui. Zarui got second in 3x3. Beat Dylan Miller in the head-to-head final, which was more Dylan choking, which I'll mention down here. But Zarui's just like really good. Like his 3x3 solves were all really sloppy in the first 2 rounds. I commentated over a few of them, but he was getting like 6-1s with bad solves, like constant lockups and mistakes. Zarui is in Madi Hiroto Inaba's elite cubers group, and I'm really interested to see how he improves. But like all these people, I watched him solve and I was just like, dang, they're so good. And I would never want to be them. Like these really short events, there's just no margin for error. Like the clock final, it was so sad. Like these really good competitors, like Reed Richardson and Brendan Dunnigan, were just like mistakes all over the place in clock. Like it was a regional championship. Neither of them cared that much. But at the same time, of course they cared. Imagine if this was Worlds. Imagine if this was a competition that you really were working toward and you just blew it, right? Like in a big cube, it feels more like a skill issue that can be addressed. In that, it just kind of feels like, oh, that happened. Nothing I could have done about it, really. Head-to-head finals in 3x3, I noticed this as well. Like there were a lot of little things that happened in head-to-head finals that were just like, man, that stinks. Like Dylan's loss was more Dylan losing than Zarui winning. Nancy Liu got eliminated because of a false start, which I have a lot of opinions about the WCA doing simultaneous solving instead of alternating. Like I really think alternating is a better format for the competitor, for the audience, and for the like regulatory consistency of the format. But all that to say, this made me highly disinterested in getting really good at 3x3 or any of the smaller events. Anywho, that's Westerns. Amazing comp. And then the 2 weeks after Westerns, I was in Europe, chilling out with my wife, anniversary trip. It was great. We went to Disneyland in Paris. We ate a bunch of French pastries. We went to London for a few days. I saw Les Miserables on the West End. I did the best escape room I've ever done in Paris at a place called Deep Inside Escape Room. It was a great trip. Just chilled out, didn't do a lot of cubing. I cubed a little bit on trains, I got probably like 100 7x7 solves in, but wasn't training hard at all, just relaxed. So now, between going to Westerns, seeing Kevin, seeing fast competitors, getting a little taste of what finals is like, and being nice and rested, I feel more motivated to like really get after it than I ever have before. So I'm in a great spot personally. I really do want to get to major finals. There was a point when I decided I wasn't going to pursue it with 3x3 that I think a lot of people were worried that I just like completely burned out. I definitely haven't. I'm very excited about this, especially because it's 5 through 7. I think that I can settle in and grind this out over the next 3 or 4 years and enjoy the process. Okay, so I'll talk about the training that's coming up later. But having just said that I'm more motivated to grind now than ever, I've noticed kind of a macro cycle in my cubing life. And from talking to a few other cubers, they have the same thing. And I'm calling it the training accordion because of the idea of like expansion and contraction, but you could also call it a cycle. So here's what this is. Giant block of text. I will explain this. I've noticed this cycle in my life with cubing where I will learn some new thing with cubing. Maybe it's a mentality thing, like I should be looking at the cube in a different order, like top, left, right, back, instead of just like wherever. Maybe it's a new alg set. Maybe it's a new finger trick. Maybe it's an inspection pattern. Like there's a bunch of different sorts of new things you can implement into your solve. But the practice of understanding and downloading the new thing into your brain takes time and mental effort, like a lot of it. You can't solve very much as you learn a new thing because most of your mental resources are being allocated to learning something new, just getting the concept. Once the concept is in your head, then you enter this phase of getting comfortable with this new element in your solving, which requires practice. But that practice is very mentally intensive because you're using a brand new skill. That means that your brain gets tired out really quickly and you can't undergo nearly as much volume as you practice because of that. As you get past the initial baby steps of learning some new cubing skill, you can kind of start grinding it out. Once you have it into your solve, the next thing to do is just practice a ton. And at this point, this is where you can usually convert the potential energy of a new thing that you've learned into like kinetic energy or actually seeing your times go down. So this is grind season where I learned a new alg set. I know it enough to do solve. Now I'm going to solve a ton. And there's new PBs. There's new average of 50. There's new average of 100 PB. This is where you do probably the most hours put into cubing. So up here, you have to do less hours because you get tired as you practice. And then here, you kind of just like naturally start doing more and more hours because you can just grind away. As you're in this, I'm practicing a ton and my practice time is as high as it's ever been, your improvement starts to slow down because you're not adding new things in. But because you're putting so much time in, your overall skill is still like going up. Then what happens, at least in my experience, is you notice that you're starting to get sloppy. Like I'm grinding so much that I'm not using all of my brain when I solve. I could now be even faster than my global average when I really focus on solving. So maybe up here, before you learn some new skill, your PB average of 5 or average of 12 is like 1 minute. And then down here, after you've gone through a huge grind season, maybe your global average has moved down to 1 minute. Like that 1 minute average is no longer the peak performance, it's your average performance. And now what you're trying to do is focus on less quality solves. You're trying to focus on really engaging your whole brain and using super good habits. And you're trying to find a new peak time. So maybe you're going into a major competition and all that matters to you is performing on competition day. That means that you're not going to be doing tons of grinding. You're going to be resting up and trying to get your mentality right. You're going to be trying to use good habits. During the competition itself, I learned this during Westerns. The best thing to do, at least for me and for Kevin Hayes as well, is to not tire yourself out across the whole competition. It's to rest up and dump as much mental effort as you can into just the time when you're solving. So now we've gone from the accordion kind of expanding way out, lots of practice time, down to all the way contracted on competition day. All my mental effort is going into just the few solves in my competition round. Once this happens and you finish your big competition thing, you can feel a bit of burnout because you did a ton of work, you improved a ton, you stopped improving as much, you competed, and maybe you didn't get a great result, or you did get a great result, and now it's finally over. It all just kind of like releases. And you're like, whew, that happened. And that is a very like natural time to kind of rest, relax, take a break from cubing for a week or few, right? And then as you rest, relax, take a break, you probably realize, oh, hey, there's another new thing I could put into my solving. And if I do this, I'll get even faster. And then you go try and learn the new thing. And the cycle repeats again. You learn something new, you start to put it into your solves, you get really comfortable with it, and you're in peak grind season. You start to notice your grind is getting a little bit sloppy, so you start to focus on quality over quantity. And then you get toward a competition and you try to rest yourself up, and then you put all your mental effort into just a few solves, and then you contract and you expand back and forth over and over again. This is this phenomenon that I've noticed in my own cubing life 3 different times now. And I'm calling it the training accordion because like your practice time grows, then it shrinks, then it grows. Like, that's the point of your practice. I thought after I got sub 10 on 3x3 officially, this means I'm burnt out. This means I should stop. Really, that is a sign, like a healthy sign of the cycle of growth, where I need all the steps of that cycle. I need the times where I'm grinding out some new skill and not solving a lot so that I can learn a new thing. I need that frustrating season of trying to learn a new thing in my solving, but not grinding a lot. I need the huge suboptimal grind seasons. I need the rest seasons. I need the excellent competition time. I need the rest where I'm not touching the cube at all. Like, all of this stuff is important to my improvement as a cuber. So if I'm in a season like I am right now, where I'm just grinding out solves, I shouldn't be like, I should be more intentional about my practicing. No, I'm in grind season. I have 3 weeks until NAC, and everything I'm doing is going to be focused on that, right? Or 2 weeks now. So I'm going to grind and then slowly taper off as I go into the competition. After that, I'm going to get coaching. I'm going to find new little areas of my solve to optimize. And then I'm going to start doing slow solves and making a bunch of mistakes in my solves and going through no real time improvement to implement those things. And then I'll be back in grind season again. Like, all of these are good. And I shouldn't beat myself up when I'm in any one or the other of these things. Instead, I should have the healthy long-term view that it's all part of the necessary cycle of improvement, where maybe right now I'm practicing more or less, but it's all part of the broader path to ultimately becoming an excellent cuber. All right. That's what's been on my mind. Let me know if that's been true or not of you. I don't know that this is a phenomenon for everybody, but I think it's true enough in my life that I wanted to say it, and maybe it will help other people think about their training. So what am I doing over the next 2 months? And I'm saying the next 2 months because I am about to move across the country. I'll mention that later here. And that just means that after NAC, I'm not really going to be able to touch a cube for 2 or 3 weeks as my whole life gets turned upside down. So I'm making this video now, and I will make another one in a couple of months. So first thing I wanted to mention is new hardware that I'm working with. So when I was at Westerns, Phil and Dylan were playing with this thing called the SAO Cube. It's a MoU RS3MB5, but it has a different core, and it has a really nice like smoothness and tactility. So Phil sent me one. I really like it. I've been maining it. 3x3 hardware, there's always a new 3x3, but that's what I like right now. I'm still not good at it, but whatever. All right, 5x5. I talked with Emmanuel Cow. There's a podcast episode coming with him. It was a phenomenal episode. Unfortunately, the last 10 minutes of the audio got lost, so it'll be cut short at the end. But one of the things we talked about was comparing the GAN 5x5 to the MoU, what's it called? Not Aoshi, Aochuang, the current Aochuang, whichever V we're on. And he and I agreed that the MoU Aochuang should be the best 5x5, But the problem is as you dump hundreds of solves into it, the inner and outer layers become uneven. And for both of us, we really value uniformity in the feel of our cube over the speed of the cube. So the Moyu Ouchwang, like it's really fast and really tactile. But because the inners and outers don't feel the same, both of us were talking about how it is more important to prioritize fluidity over peak turning speed because that lowers the standard deviation of your overall solve time. And that is like risk adjusted, a better way to compete. And over time will still yield really good averages. So I'm back on the GAN 5x5 over the Moyu right now. This might change in the future. That's my current thinking. I got the, which one is it? This guy. I got the NOMS version from the Cubicle, and this feels very different from many of the other GAN 5x5s I've tried. Like, I know it's just a setup thing, but it's much looser than I've set my other ones up. It feels a lot drier once it has broken in. It's almost too fast. Like, I've never felt a 5x5 that is this fast, dry, and loose, but still works. So I've been really enjoying solving on it. I don't know if I'm going to keep the setup as is, though, because what I've noticed is when I'm on it, I'm really on, but I also am getting a lot more like bad times on it because it's so fast that if I lose control, it's hard to stay fluid. And the whole reason I'm using the GAN is for the sake of fluidity and stability. So I don't know, figuring it out. 5x5 hardware is pretty good. 6x6, dude. I got this. This is the Cubicle Enhanced Aoshi Triple Track. This cube is so good. Like it is wild. Talk about uniformity in all the layers. My other Aoshis, I have 3 of them. All of them have like noticeable clicks or differences between each of the layers. This cube feels exactly the same all the way through. It is the fastest, smoothest, most even 6x6 I've ever used. Like I've used a lot at competitions. I've had several of my own. This is by far my favorite. I think they put some sort of premium setup in it when they sent this to me, but my goodness, it's fun. Like it's so good. I have trouble putting this down when I solve on it, and I'm noticeably faster. Like I'm globaling low 150s now, like down from 2 flat. Like literally, I picked up this cube, my global dropped like 6 seconds. For now, like maybe I'm high on it, but after about 2 weeks of solving on it, I'm exceptionally impressed with that puzzle. If you care about 6x6 even somewhat seriously, I would really recommend picking this up. Some other puzzles I tried. I am struggling to find a good 7x7. I tried several people's 7x7s at Westerns, and yet again for another competition, everyone's 7x7 was better than mine. And yet, I cannot get myself a good one. So Emmanuel Cow recommended the PiCube SE 6 and 7. I got those. The Cubicle sent them to me. They're not good. Kevin mentioned this to me too when I was talking to Kevin Hayes. He was like, I don't know what PiCube puzzles everyone else is trying, but mine are like really like clicky and they don't turn very well. And Elliot Perkins, I did a podcast with him, and he said the same thing. He said he has a Warrior PiCube 7x7, and it catches on nothing, is what he said. And that's been my experience with my PiCube SE, both the Aoshi and the Aofu. The outer layers feel like bumpy. Like they feel like they're catching on something. Like you know how there used to be like really old puzzles where they had a mechanism that literally had like clicked as it turned, like V cubes, like old V cubes. The PiCube SE 6 and 7, the outer layers feel like way toned down V cubes, and I can't figure out how to set them up to make it go away. So I still don't have a 7x7 that I love. I'm using my stock Aofu triple track without UV coating right now. I kind of want to get one with UV coating and stuff, but I kind of don't want to ask the Cubicle for another one, and I'm so comfortable with my current one, I'm just going to stick with it. But yeah, 7x7 hardware annoys me. Like if 6x6, the 6x6 hardware is just so much better than 7, it's crazy. So I hope somebody drops a 7x7 that is just like, that I love, and I can go from there. I'm going to NAC. This is the next big thing. I am so excited to go to NAC. I've never been to a major. I've followed cubing since I was like 10, 9, and now as a mid-20s guy, I'm finally going to one. And I'm so hyped. I'm commentating. I get to do 6x6 and 7x7 finals, which I am crazy excited about. A few other rounds as well. I think I'm also helping with the Nations Cup or Regions Relay, whatever we call it. Goals for this comp, since I've never been to a major, and a lot of my goal setting around cubing has to do with performing at majors, I want to learn just like what the competition feels like so that I can visualize it, so that I can know how to prepare myself for it. Just kind of get a sense for how the whole thing flows, what finals look like. I want to set a PR in 7x7 is all. Like, in my head, getting under 250 for my mean would be great, but I don't know if that'll happen yet. Like, I just kind of have to see what the times are. I want to see as many other fast big cubers as I can. Like, I want to chat with them, watch them solve, just absorb as much knowledge and experience and exposure in person as I can, so that when I come back to my little, room at home and I'm cubing on my own, I remember how many other people I'm competing with out there and how good all of them are. That'll motivate me. And then I want to meet all of you guys. If any of you are going to NAC, I really want to say hi. It is okay to talk to me. It is okay to like ask me how things are going or tell me about what you're thinking about, not just come up and ask for a picture and leave. Like, if you just want a picture, that's chill. That happens now quite a bit at competitions. But like, I will post in my Discord each day where I'm going to be hanging out. Feel free, come find me, say hey, talk to me, sit with me if you want. Like, it's chill. Yeah, so join the Discord, link in the description. I'm super hyped to go to NAC. It's going to be great. Mindset thing, I'm like very firm that I want to get into these finals. I mentioned this before, but because I've kind of gotten to mull this over for 8 or 9 months now, since I declared this goal, I've kind of gone through the cycle of doubt of like, is this really worth doing? This is going to be a long journey. Yeah, yes, it's very worth doing. I've cubed since I was really young. I've always followed cubing. I've competed for like 8 years now. And it's consistently a desire. I really want this. And every little taste I get of it, every little local major final, every little local big cube final is so fun. Western's big cube finals was so fun. And I get a ton of gratification out of achievements like this, like working on a thing and seeing it pay off, if only for myself. Like, this is not a for glory thing. Like, nobody, like when I was sitting next to Kevin Hayes, there were these kids that would come up to Kevin, like, who has world records out the wazoo, has won multiple world championships in all the big cubes. And they'd be like, hey, weren't you in like you were in regional finals at this one thing I went to last month? And it's like, yeah, dude. Like, there were kids who came up and asked me for a picture and didn't know who Kevin was. And I was like, what? This is not that serious of a thing, really. Like, I'm thinking about it super hard. I really want it, but I want it because of the feeling of improve, get really good at a skill and have a payoff. And the fact that it's in a competitive setting with a leaderboard and all that stuff is great. But it's not for glory. It's just like a thing that I want because I love the process of getting there. If I stop working on getting toward a final, like looking back on the times in the last few months where I've slowed down on my work, it's more because of either laziness, like it's hard to do this, I'd rather just veg on YouTube, which that's stupid, or I stop working because of a poor mentality, like, oh, I have to be the best in the world and I can't, or oh, I have to train 4 hours a day or I'm never going to make it. Like, no, I've been learning myself how I train, how I go through ups and downs, how I compete. I think I'm ready to kind of be locked in on this for the long term. And I'll also say that a lot of decisions that I'm making right now, because I'm still young, I'm still only 22, a lot of my decision making I'm doing around the idea of minimizing regrets. Basically, any decision I make has big consequences right now, because if it's good, it has really high upside because it will impact the rest of my life. And if it's bad, it has really high downside because, again, it could impact the rest of my life. Not always, like, because the bad decisions are often very mitigatable because there's a long time for me to recover. But the more important reason for me to make decisions right now is less based on taking bets on things that could have high upside and more about me mitigating downsides. More about me doing things where I will not look back in 10 years and go, dang it, I wish I'd done blank. One of the biggest regrets of my life is in high school, my junior year of high school, I was competing in speech and debate, and I was ranked 11th in the nation. I won a couple of like near national tournaments, but then nationals got canceled because of COVID. And I did not go back to speech and debate my senior year. There was nationals that year too. Like I could have gone back, and all the people ranked above me were seniors. Like I could have gone back and been ranked first in the nation for speech and debate, but I didn't. I never got to taste what it was like to compete at the highest level. And not seeing that through is like one of the biggest things that I get disappointed about when I think back on high school and college. And I don't want cubing to be that. If I pursue this, like I actually take a run at it for all the next 3 years with the same consistency that I've been applying to it for the last 3 months, even if I fail, I'm not going to regret that work. It's going to be great. Assuming, asterisk, that it doesn't get in the way of my wife, of the children I hope to have over that period of time, my work, my religion, the things I care about more. But like I'm pretty set. I'm pretty excited about the road ahead. It's a sober excitement. Like I see how much work it'll be, but I enjoy it. It's a good grind. It's a grind that rewards you because the hard work itself is worth doing. So anyway, this is just me talking about this realization I've had and how it informs the specific training I'm going to be doing. So the immediate goal that I've set for myself is to become faster than Perm, which would be so cool. Like Perm is the guy that really like got me into speed cubing more hardcore. So here's Perm's WCA profile. I'll take my camera off. So I'm already sub Perm on 6x6. That's mostly because 6x6 hardware has gotten so good compared to when he was competing, which was only a few years ago. 4x4 won't be a problem. So like here's my profile, 152 average on 6 versus his 203. I'm much faster. 4x4, he's 34-24. I'm 36. I do not practice 4x4, and I don't plan to practice it. Like that's not on my list of goals. It's only 5 through 7. But this is just like, a month of grinding, and I can get faster than him, I think. Because at home I can average sub 35 global. 5x5, I have a 102 average, and Perm has a 56 average. That's a giant leap. Like that is a huge gap. That is probably 8 to 16 weeks of daily average of 50 for me to get to that skill level. I'm nowhere close to this right now. So 5x5 will take a while. 7x7, he's at a 244 average. And I have a 3 flat right now. At home, I'm globaling 3 flat right now. Like my daily sessions average out to that. When I got this in competition, I was globaling 310. So I'm already improving quite a bit. I don't know how long it will take me to get to this point, but it doesn't feel like it'll take me all that long. Because when I'm really mentally in the zone, I get low 250s at home. And that's after like a couple weeks of solving since Westerns. Like I really think that this is not that much harder to do than where I'm at right now. So immediate goal is get sub Perm on 7x7. I'm guessing 5x5 will take a while. 3x3 is going to be a grind. He's got an 8.5. I need to get sub 8.5. That will not be easy for sure, but that's my like immediate term goal. So specifically, what am I going to be doing over the next few weeks? I've been cubing using my timer, speedcubehub.com. I'm going to use CS timer for the next few weeks just for the sake of variety, and I'm going to switch the way that I track. Again, it's just for variety, just because it's interesting. I'm going to track by number of solves I do, not by amount of time I spend solving. So what I've been doing is on my timer, speakinghub.com, I have a timer built in where it keeps track of how many minutes I am at the station solving each day. And that's how I tracked, which was nice. But now what I'm doing is I'm doing a certain number of solves each day, and all I'm writing down is the average of all of them, which is kind of cool because it makes me care about every solve instead of just caring about getting through the time. Like, both have pros and cons. Instead of basically only doing the event I'm focused on, which is 6x6, I'm going to try and not let any individual event atrophy. I'm going to focus on 7x7. Like, this is like all three of these events still add up to less time than the 7x7 I'm going to be doing each day. The 3x3 average of 50, I just don't want my 3x3 to atrophy completely. Like, my 3x3 solving at Westerns was so bad. I just want to make sure that I'm not like trash. 7x7 average of 12 is like a good amount for me. If I go too much over that, I start to get pretty mentally drained. On a good day, I can go like 18 or 20 solves. Going over this allotted amount of solves per day is always allowed. My goal is to have a baseline that I always achieve, and then when I'm extra motivated, go over it, but not force myself to, because consistency over time is way more important. And for me, like, being in a good mindset for a long time is more important than having bursts of like, I'm doing 57x7 solves a day or something crazy. Reality is I've been doing this for the last week, and every day I've gone over this except for one because it's fun. Like, I go through 53x3 solves and I'm like, I'm on a roll. I should do 20 more. Or I go through 12 7x7 solves and I'm like, I can roll the first one. I can roll the next one. So I like this because it sets a baseline, but it gives me flexibility to do extra. A few mental notes about how to train. So this is the number of solves I'm going to achieve. This is what I'm going to tell myself as I do them. The most important thing is fluidity, especially for 7x7. If I get in a fluid motion during my first center, my first of the last 4 centers, the whole solve just goes. Especially, like, the 2 decision points are fluid first center and fluid fourth yaw edge. If those things happen, the solve is probably good because that sets the tone for everything coming after each. On 7x7, second thing, I need to be relaxed and controlled. I have been getting really, really tense, like my upper back and my neck, I'll tense and I'll be looking all over the cube and almost like fighting the cube, like the way that I turn it. And like during edge pairing, like constant, like wrestling with it and grabbing layers in weird ways just because I want to keep turning because I'm getting a little nervous. If I can relax, use a good posture, and stay controlled, that sets me up to make good mental decisions and grow into faster turning. And part of the reason I'm thinking about this is because I know I'm bad at it, but Kevin Hayes is way worse at this than I am. Like, I had this experience. Like, have you ever had the experience where you go to like a social event and you leave with like your best friends or your partner, and you're like, man, that dude was doing this stupid thing. And they look at you and they go, you do that stupid thing. What are you talking about? This has happened to me so many times. I'm like, man, that guy was, interrupting all the time. And my wife's like, Brandon, you interrupt all the time. And I'm like, dang it, I need to work on that. Like, that happened when I watched Kevin solve 7x7. Like, he had his little dual screen phone that he set up on the table for scrambling. And whenever he scrambled, he like bent, like he'd like hunch his back over and like stick his head all the way forward like a turtle and just like stare at the phone to scramble his cube. And when he solved, it was the same thing. It was like hunched back, hunched neck. And like, he was just so locked in. Like, it works for him. Like, good on you for solving well, Kevin. But you were complaining about back pain. Anyway, for me, like, I want my posture to be better. I've made other videos about this, and so I'm going to be thinking about that. I've said this multiple times, but I'm in this for the long haul. Like, even if over the next 3 to 5 weeks, I don't make a bunch of improvement, I'm in this for years. I'm going to be starting a family soon. Like, I'm married, want to have kids soon. I'm in the process of literally moving from California to Texas, getting a new job. Like, there's a lot of like big life things that are changing. Cubing will stay constant through all of it. That means that it cannot be overly intense for any individual like 1 to 3 week period. I'm trying to ride it out consistently over the long run. And then the last thing, I do need to improve my 3x3. Like I'm not good enough at 3x3, especially if I want to get world class at 5x5. I've got to get like sub 8 on 3x3. But the thing is, that speed has to come from my turning ability and look ahead, because I use yaw on big cubes. So if I get really good at 3x3 because I just get cracked at X crosses, that doesn't matter, because on 5x5, you're just like finishing edge pairing and then launching into F2L. So what do I need to do? I need to do a buttload of 3x3 solves with clean look ahead. As it turns out, this is how almost every 3x3 solver has historically gotten fast. They learn the fundamentals, they do a bazillion solves, they learn how to look ahead from cross to F2L, not predict it, and then the prediction comes as they get to almost sub 8. I've probably talked to like 20 different top 3x3 solvers, including but not limited to Patrick Ponce, Dominic Radici, Luke Greiser, Dylan Miller, Daniel Partridge, although he's not like top, who talk about this, where they're like, yeah, I didn't inspect cross +1 until I was like basically sub 8. Like, I need to get to that point and not tell myself you're bad at inspecting, therefore you're bad at 3x3. Like, no, turn faster, look ahead better, become more confident, and that will translate to big cubes. So those are those. I'm going to do this every single day, minus June 23rd. That's the day I move out of my current apartment, so that'll be a crazy day. But otherwise, I'm going to cube every single day until NAC. And then at North American Championships. And then the 3 weeks after that are going to be crazy. Like, I'm going to NAC, and then I have a trip for a week and a half, and then I'm moving across the country and getting settled in. So I'm planning on most of July being kind of a pause from cubing. And then end of July, I will start up training again. And early August, I'll make another video talking about what's coming next for me. But that's about what my schedule looks like as far as this training block goes. I'm still making content. I recorded before this with Daniel Carnock, Derpy Cuber. It was a great podcast. That'll be up in 3 weeks from today. This week, I'll have Emmanuel Cow up on the channel. This was a really fun podcast. Next week, I recorded with Tuan Dulamond, and he brought this crazy document with all of his thinking about like different two-sided ZBLL recognition schemes and ways that you can look into ZBLL from ZBLS and predict PLL from OLL. And this video is the most technical video I've ever filmed, and it kind of made my brain melt, and I don't know if I did a good job in it, but I'm going to post it and maybe someone will like it. I've got a couple like video essay sort of videos where I just talk about a topic instead of training or an interview. I'm chilling. I'm enjoying my once or twice a week long form uploads. I'm not doing shorts. I'm not doing highly edited stuff. And I don't really plan to. Reason is I want content that, number one, I like. I prefer dense long form videos like I make. And I would rather make content that a few people love than hundreds of thousands of people watch and forget later. I would rather write books than write tweets. Or in the context of this, I would rather make these long videos that a few hundred people watch, but then they come up to me at a competition and like shake my hand and look at me so genuinely and are just like, dude, thank you for what you do. So yeah, I'm still here. I'm still cranking content, and I have no plans of that slowing down, even though I am switching jobs and switching homes and switching lives and starting a family and all that. Please consider subscribing if you're not already. Quite a few people watch my stuff and then they don't subscribe, and it makes me sad. So make me happy, please. One last thing, Phil, if you're watching this, thank you so much for this legendary item. I drink my DNM 37 every single day, and the doctor says I'm in the best health of my life.